So at the bottom of the planetary display, we have Shesha holding up the earth. This is Shesh, the empowered incarnation. There we have Ananta speaking Bhagavatam to the four Kumaras, and above the 7 subterranean planets. Here we can see Jambudvip, the central island of Bhumandala, and Bharatvarsha is situated on the southern side of that. It's 8 other Varshas with Ilavrita Varsha in the center, various supporting mountains with large trees upon them, described in Srimad Bhagavatam. In the very center of Ilavrita Varsha is Mount Meru, Golden Mountain. Atop Mount Meru are the cities of important demigods, Lord Brahma in the center, the 8 Dikpalas in the cardinal directions and sub-directions. Moving out, we can see the broader Bhumandala, 7 concentric islands and oceans surrounding them. The 7th of these islands is Pushkaradweep. On that island is Manasotra mountain. On the mountain there's various cities of demigods such as Indra. Out further is Loka mountain. These large elephants stand atop Loka mountain to balance Bhumandala. Outside of Loka mountain is Aloka Varsha, which is dark. The rays of the sun and the other luminaries extend up to Loka mountain. On Manasotra mountain here on Pushkaradweep, the sun travels above this mountain at the southernmost point of its annual orbit. Above Bhumandala is Bhuvarloka, which is the residence of the Charanas, Siddhas, Yakshas, Gandharvas. And above there is Swargaloka, beginning from the sun and extending up to the pole star Dhruvaloka. This is the moving part of the planetary display. Here we can see the sun and the moon moving in their chariots. The chariots are being drawn by horses moving in the anti-clockwise direction, but they're traveling with the wheel of time, moving in the clockwise direction faster. So it looks as if they're moving backwards. Above them, the zodiac of stars, more planets, and another realm of stars. So here we can see everything moving with the Kala Chakra, circumambulating the axis that connects Mount Meru with Dhruvaloka. Above these planets, we come to the planet of the 7 sages, the Saptarshi. You can see them here. They're commonly known as the Big Dipper, and then Dhruvaloka, the pole star. On the ocean of milk situated there, Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, who is the Paramatma within everyone's heart. He resides on Anantashesh. Moving up beyond there, we have Mahaloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, and Satyaloka. In this video, we haven't included many of the details for there, but on Mahaloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, we have residences of the Lord, such as Lord Varaha, Vamana, and so on. Here's Brahmaloka, and on Brahmaloka, we also have a form of the Lord Garbhodakshaya Vishnu as the Sahasrashesha Purush. Beyond there is the 7 coverings of the universe, earth, water, fire, etc. And outside of the universes is the abode of Lord Shiva, Shiva Loka. There he resides eternally. Beyond Shiva Loka, we come to Mahavishnu, Karanodakashaya Vishnu, with innumerable universes that have emanated from the pores of his transcendental body. Here you can see him being served by Rama Devi. Then we come to the Brahmajyoti, the effulgence of the Lord's transcendental body. Penetrating through the Brahmajyoti, we come to the Vaikuntha planets. We're showing 24 planets of the Vaikuntha realm in this model. The Lord with 4 arms is holding the conch, disc, club, and lotus, and the various combinations of those 4 make 24. Then we come to Goloka Vrindavan. Here we can see Radha Madhava, and we'll also be showing the other primary rasas, Krishna with the cowherd boys, Krishna being served, Krishna with Mother Yashoda. So this is an overview of the planetary display to be shown.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Atman Show, and I have a very special guest. His name is Ashish Dalela, and he is the author of the book A Mystic Universe, an introduction to Vedic cosmology, and it looks like this. So, sir, please go ahead and complete your introduction before I ask you basic question and share my slide.
Okay, thank you for inviting me, Anamika, and I'm glad to be here. My name is Ashish Dalela, and I have been writing on Vedic philosophy for several years now. So I have over about 24 books. I have a website called shabda.co, uh, and there are lots of books there. There's a lot of reading material there. There's forums for discussion and so on. So more as we go along if you need to know, but this is good enough for now.
Okay, so sir, I want to share my screen basically and talk about some of the concepts of Vedic philosophy that is in your book and in your website. So, can you see my screen, sir?
I can see it fine, yes.
So the first question that I have that I read is like space. Each space is a tree structure. So how do you call that this space has a tree structure and it is accompanied by object, time, role, time, and personality time? Can you please explain on that one?
Yeah, see, the space that is studied in modern science, okay, that is a space for object motion. And there are several scientific and religious problems associated with this, space of object motion. Okay, and but in Vedic philosophy, in Bhagavad Gita, at the beginning itself, Krishna describes that what we mean by space is actually the prakriti in which the Atma moves, the soul moves in the material world. Okay, matter itself is not moving everywhere. We will find, or we can find several places prakriti is said to be jada or inert and things like that. It doesn't mean it is, how should I say, it doesn't change at all. But basically, Atma is moving, and by the from one state, or one location in prakriti to another location in prakriti. And this movement of the Atma creates the Atma's experience. And once that, motion, whatever we mean by motion, okay, that is essentially the motion of the Atma. Even if I move my hand up and down, okay, all right, this hand movement is also Atma movement, all right? Because if the Atma leaves the body, my body, then this hand will not move automatically. Somebody else has to move my hand. All right. Somebody else, otherwise the hand will not move. And so this movement of the hand is there only so long as the Atma is present. And therefore, even simple things like my hand movement is the result of Atma movement. Okay. So let me just come to this point about what do we mean by tree. So Prakriti is actually an inverted tree. Okay, and what that means is essentially there are three gunas called Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, and each of these gunas has, combines infinitely with each other. Okay. And by the combination of these three gunas, a tree structure is created. You can think of a root, okay, in which there are three branches. Each of these three branches then produces three more branches, which then produce, three more branches and so on. And this is how the world is described as an inverted tree structure. Okay. this is not this. You cannot see this tree. If you try to look at this tree somewhere, where is this tree, and you won't see this tree. It is because this is a tree of Atma movement. Okay, it is not a tree that you will see there, because it is a tree of Atma movement. So when the Atma moves, it is moving from one leaf or the twig or the branch of the tree to another leaf or twig or branch of the tree. Okay, so it goes up and down, up and down, up and down. Okay, and this movement of the Atma is what creates all the other experience movement, such as what we call object motion. Okay, so that is the meaning of space. So by space, we simply mean Prakriti. And similarly, there is Prakriti and there is Kala. Kala is time. Okay, so Prakriti is expanded from Durga, and Kala is expanded from, or Kala is the effect of Lord Shiva. So this is our personalist understanding of space and time. Space and time in modern science are just a box. Space is a three-dimensional box, and time is one-dimensional linear line. But neither, that is not the Vedic understanding. Okay? Space is an inverted tree, and time is cyclical. Right? So those are the two basic concepts. So if you want to think about space and time, think about space as a hierarchical level of, or you can see if this was an inverted tree, the leaves will be at the bottom, twigs will be at a slightly higher level, and so on and so forth. So, so this space is actually expanded from, it is a byproduct of Prakriti, but it's expanded eventually from it.
Okay. All right. So in modern science, when we were learned in a school and everything, we always see that all the planets and Earth, everything is spherical. But
Yes.
when I see this particular image, of
Yes.
Vedic cosmology, it's like a disc. So can you just like expand on that one, the spherical and the disc concept?
Yes. So see, when we study the three gunas of Prakriti, okay, everything can be described in three ways. This is a fundamental property of Guna. So let's say, so in this inverted tree that I talked about, so in the picture that you are showing, okay, there is a Merudand. Okay, this is a central Merudand, and every what shall I say? Every level is basically like expanded from each from the Merudand. Like so, this whole thing is sometimes compared to human body. Like if you have a spinal cord, from each level of the spinal cord, sometimes people call them 7 chakras and things like that. But from each level in the spinal cord, there is a set of nerves coming out. Okay, so you can think of this level as a set of nerves. This is a very crude analogy that I'm giving. It is not exactly like that, but when it expands out from the center, it is expanding out like a tree, which means the first emanations from this or whatever we conceive as space will be certain trunks, then there will be certain branches, and there will be certain leaves and things like that. Okay, so this is a very basic understanding. However, in this tree, every branch can be described in three ways. Okay, it can be called an object, it can be called a space, and it can be called a dimension. Okay, so we'll briefly talk about what each of these three means. So when we talk about a planet, okay, planet is actually a wrong word, but there is no better word. The Sanskrit word is graha. Okay, A graha generally means, or even in ordinary language, it means a house. Okay, so this graha is a house, and it constitutes space. Okay, so this is the first understanding of space. So if we talk about Earth graha, we will say that Earth is a house. Okay. Similarly, there are numerous grahas in which they are treated as houses. And so this is the first understanding. Then the second thing is each of these grahas is also a dimension. Okay, what we mean by dimension here is that it's a branch of the cosmic tree. And if for example we can call this branch something like earthly. Okay, so there is earthly life, there are earthly species, there is earthly pleasure, there is earthly duties, and and so on. So this is what, so earth is a graha, and earthly is a type of existence. Okay, and then you can also model it, or you can also understand it as an object. Okay, so every time we try to understand anything in terms of the modes, we will always think in three ways, at least three ways. And there is more than three ways also. There are actually, in a more comprehensive understanding, there are 6 understandings of everything. We can say 6 perspectives, but we will just limit ourselves to 3 perspectives for now. It will get very, very complicated. So these 3 perspectives. So if you think of this inverted tree, and you can just think of one branch. Okay. So if you look at this branch from the perspective of leaves of this tree, okay, then this branch is actually a space. Okay. So this is the first understanding. If you look at this branch from the perspective sitting, or you can say the Atma is sitting on the branch, and it is looking at that branch, at that point, it is, a dimension. But if you look at the same branch from a higher trunk, let's say, okay, then it will be seen as an object. So there are 3 perspectives: from the leaf, from the branch, from the trunk. Okay. And therefore, you can describe the same thing as a space, as a dimension, and as an object. Okay. So this flat space conception, okay, this flat space conception comes from 2 things, or you can think of this in terms of 2 dimensions. Okay. What these 2 dimensions constitute is what we call Guna and Karma. Okay. So I'll give you a simple example to understand these 2 things. If you, Krishna says, Chaturvarnam maya srishtam guna karma vibhagasaha. Okay. So Varna is basically a class of things. And Krishna is, of course, talking about Varna as class of people. But this general concept of class can be applied to anything and everything. Okay. So let's not apply it to people. Let's apply it to something very simple like a car. Okay. So how do you define a car? Okay. You can define a car in 2 ways. One is based on how it looks like to you. Okay. There is a certain shape, color, size, and so on. Okay. So this is this appearance of the shape, color, size, and other things like hardness, all these things. This is what we call Guna. Okay. This is how the car looks to us. But something can look like a car and not work like a car. Okay. There, there may be some dysfunction in the car. So we will not call that car. Okay. So something is a car if it not only looks like a car, but it also works like a car. Right? So the first thing is Guna, the second thing is car. This is a general concept about how we define all classes. Okay. So something, for example, that works like a car but doesn't look like a car can be a truck. Okay? It is moving on a road and things like that. It is working like a car, but it doesn't look like a car. So we don't call it a car, we call it a truck. Similarly, something that looks like a car but doesn't work like a car is not called a car. It may be just, relaxing seat or something like that. So whenever we talk about these flat plane structures, they are always trying to define a type or a class. Okay. And these classes are constructed in two ways, guna and karma. So that's why you have two dimensions. However, each of these dimensions can be expanded. Like I said, we can describe everything in 3 dimensions or in 1 dimension or in 2 dimensions. Okay. So what we mean by earth is a region in this flat plane structure. Okay.
So I just want to ask you a question. In this
Yeah.
in this Bhuloka, this flat disk, Earth is one planet. Is that my understanding?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's why I said, see, the word planet is there is an assumption in when we use the word planet. Okay, it is a ball.
Yeah.
That is not how we are described. That's not the only way we are describing this.
Okay.
Okay. Because see, in modern science, assumption is the fundamental assumption in modern physics is that the universe is uniform. Okay?
Yeah.
So every location in space and every moment in time is essentially the same from a space and time perspective. But in Vedic cosmology, every place in the universe is different.
Yeah.
Every place is different. Earth is different. Earth life is, or you can say earthly life is different. Lunar life is different. Solar life is different. Saturnian life is different. There is life in, even in stars and things like that. Okay. So every location in the universe gives a qualitatively different type of life. And that comes with different type of body, different type of mentality, different type of intellect, and so on. Okay. So what we mean by the universe is all these literally millions and millions of types of life. Okay. And so when we are talking about these flat planes, we are talking about classes of life. And a class is described in terms of guna and karma. Okay. So there is a broad, two-dimensional surface in which you talk about guna and karma. Okay. And once if you read the Bhagavad Purana, you will notice that Krishna will, or Bhagavad Purana will always describe in every, you are seeing concentric circles and things like that. Everywhere you will find this Varnashram system going on, okay, which means 4 classes and 4 stages of life. And this Varnashram system is basically classification of humans. But it is not just this Varna and it is not just human, but it's a general system of classification for everything, like a car, like a table, like a chair, everything. So when we confine ourselves to a smaller region in this space, we are talking about a subset of types of lives, subset of types of pleasures, subset of types of bodies, subset of types of mentalities, and so on and so forth. Okay. So when we create a narrow region in this space, we are basically talking about that. This whole thing, this flat space structure, once you have identified the region, you can collectively call it a type. Like we can call it an earth. Okay? So it becomes like a branch. And you can, whole thing can be called earth, or earthly life, earthly pleasure, earthly mentality, earthly body, earthly species, and so on.
So
And yes.
I have one question. Like, a lot of people say that this is a mind mapping, but that day when I was discussing with you, you said that there is something that we can see and there is something that we cannot see, and we can only see if we have higher consciousness. So, can you tell us about that, please?
We will not go into higher consciousness. All that I'm saying right now is that let us go step by step. Okay. So higher consciousness simply means if let's say, for example, you are in Bhuloka. Okay. You have a certain type of life.
Exactly.
A certain type of body, certain type of pleasure, certain type of thoughts, certain type of food, certain type of relationships, and so on. Okay. So if you want to go to Swargaloka, for example, or there is Bhuvarloka and all these things, Swargaloka, Maharloka. The moment you go there, okay, you will get a different type of body, different type of mentality, different kind of pleasure, different kind of relationships, different thought processes, different system of social organization, and different things will be going on in each. So each place is unique. Okay, so if you want to go up in the universe, okay, then we have to change our mentality. Okay, essentially what we mean by mentality is three things: the type of pleasure we seek, the type of consumption we want, the type of relationships we like. Okay, and so as our quality of or our desire for different kinds of happiness or different kinds of pleasure, different kinds of relationships, all these things change, then we ascend upwards. Okay.
So my question is like, this is not a mind mapping. This is a real thing. Some people say it's a mind mapping. So I think that it is not a mind. It's a real thing.
It is a real thing and it is mind. Okay, if you want to understand this thing, then we have to go back to a more fundamental issue of what is a body.
Exactly.
Okay? In what is a body? In Western thinking, since the time of Descartes, or even prior to that, there has been a dichotomy about mind and body. Okay, or matter and soul and things like the matter and consciousness and things like that. So their idea is that body is a substance or an object. Okay, and mind is something that is non-objective or something that we cannot perceive and things like that. So there is this dualism of mind and body has been created in Western thinking. And the result of this dualism has been that we always model the body as an object. Okay, but the body is not an object. Okay, all of Prakriti is comprising of three gunas, three qualities. Okay, and the mind is constructed from the same qualities as the body. Okay, you can also think of our body is also, you can also think of it like this, that the mind is the trunk and the body is the leaves, or mind is the branch and the body is emanated. So everywhere the Atma, when the child is conceived, at that time the Atma enters along with the prior mentality. Okay? And from once it enters, from there, from the mentality develops a body. Okay? So for example, if the soul dies or Atma dies in this body and it goes to, let's say, Swargalok. Okay? At that point in time, from this, because it has ascended to a higher mentality, from that mentality, a body will develop. Okay. Okay. So in Western thinking about mind and body as two separate realities, parallel realities or separate realities, two different kinds of things. But in the Vedic conception, the body is coming out of the mind. And there is a very long process very detailed process understanding of how one thing comes out of the other thing. Okay? The general principle in Sankhya philosophy is called Satkaryavad. Okay? Satkaryavad, Sat means, existing, and Karya means effect. And so the effect is existing in the cause. Okay? So this is Satkaryavad. It means the body is existing in the mind. And the body can be manifest from the mind. This is a very deep and big topic. We will probably have to talk about it some other time. But the basic principle is this mind and body. I can give you a very simple example. Let's say if you are talking about a class of things like color. Okay. yellow color can be manifest from a class called color. Okay. So this is Satkaryavad, that yellow is embedded inside color, but it is unmanifest, which is also called Avyakta. Okay. So based on a selective process, sometimes color will produce yellow, sometimes color will produce red, sometimes color will produce green. So when yellow emerges, color is already present. Okay. We don't have to worry about, okay, this is just yellow, where is color? I don't see color. But that is not the case here, because yellow is emerging from color. Okay. In set theory and mathematics and things like that, people will say that, color is a set of shades like yellow, red, and things like that. That is not Satkaryavad. Yeah. Does that answer your question? What you were asking about?
Yeah.
Body and things like that.
Yeah. So no, okay, to extend that, right? I have a very much curiosity. Like, I really like this, like you said, that we can see that different parts of Jambu Deepa are not meant for humans, but for certain types of demigods. And entry to this part are forbidden
Yes.
for humans. And yet the advanced knowledge, some humans like Arjuna have traveled to these parts to meet the celestial beings. However,
Yes.
unlike the rockets which burn large amount of fuel during launch, Arjuna travels by the power of mantra, which implies that he overcame gravity by mantra and went to places that cannot be essentially perceived. Basically, he went to all these lokas and he went to demigods and he got the weapons to fight in the Mahabharata. So
Yes.
it's like there is some place in Mount Kailasha which connects to the Mount Meru. Is that true? Like, can you just elaborate this whole thing for us, please?
Yeah, see, in Mahabharata, these things are not described in detail, how he precisely goes from one place to the other. Okay. But it is described that he goes to different places in Jambudvipa. He even goes to Swargaloka, and he gets certain, weapons from there. Because even though they are trying to negotiate peace or thinking about, how to get peace and things like that, they know that somehow war may be inevitable. So he goes to all these places and, gets weapons that are not found in whatever we call Earth. And when Arjuna dies, then all the weapons disappear, right? So those are not, standard weapons to be found. So how he goes from one place to the other, again,
I want to know that. That's very interesting.
Yes. So like I said, okay, Loka is a type of mentality. Okay, yogis are able to travel to different lokas by changing their mentality. Okay, so the same process of transmigration. Okay, so this is where we have to understand what transmigration is.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes.
Transmigration of the Atma. So Krishna, see, there are two things fundamental to everything else. The first two statements in Bhagavad Gita. Okay, the first statement is, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings. Never will there be a time when we shall cease to be. This is Bhagavad Gita 2.12. Then 2.13 says that just as the soul goes from childhood to youth to old age in this life, in this body, similarly at the time of death. Okay? So even if I move my hand like this, okay, Atma is moving. Now, the hand at the up stage is a potential state which is unmanifest. It's avyakta. When I move it down, the previous one becomes avyakta and the next one becomes vyakta. Okay, so this position of the hand was previously avyakta, and when I moved it down, then it became vyakta. So how you can go from one place to the other is, right now your body has, there are certain things that I can do with my body at present. Okay, I can move my hands, I can walk around, I can probably run, I can lift certain things. but there are so many things that I cannot do. Okay. So there are mantras, or there were certain mantras that were given, by which, by chanting those mantras, you can change your mental state to a situation where, or to a state where you are no longer in earth. Okay. And you can move there. These things are not, this is where it is so fundamental to understand that we cannot simply think of body motion. Okay? Even going from one planet to the other, when Arjuna goes, that is also reincarnation. It is just, reincarnation is simply an English word that, seems to say that, reincarnation occurs only at death. No, even if I move my hand, Atma is reincarnating from one state to the other state. Okay, so there are processes by which Atma can move from a different state. Okay, and the motion to a planet, okay, is also, so this is a whole complicated process of what do you mean by distance.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah, exactly.
So there are actually 4 different concepts of distance which are combined to produce what we call perceived distance. Okay, so there is a let's say a type of body. Okay, so let's say I'm moving my hand up and I'm moving my hand down. This is one kind of or having a human body or a male body. This is one kind of what I call conceptual distance. Okay. Then I am sitting in some room, okay, and even though my nature is different from the room's nature, okay, there are walls and rocks and things like that. My positioning in this one is so the room has a different nature than my nature, and yet I have certain proximity established to it right now. This is what people generally call space. Okay, it is not the only kind of space. Okay? So this is the second type of space. Then the third thing is, even if I am sitting here, my body may be here, right? My body has a proximity to this thing, but my mind may be somewhere else. Okay, and this is where dreams become very important, right? So our explanation of waking experience has to be commensurate with my experience of dreaming. Okay, because during dream time, my consciousness goes somewhere, and and then it comes back. Okay, so so there are and then even though my mind may be here, or I may be physically, let's say, sitting in a room, in a crowded room, and where there are a lot of people, but my attention is not there, or I may be looking at the picture that you're showing, and I may be focusing on Bhuloka rather than Swargaloka. Okay, so these are the 4 methods. I may be in a different body, I may be in a different room, I may be focusing on certain things and not focusing on certain things. So there's an elaborate complex process of how distance is created. Okay, so let's say I'm not looking at Swargaloka in your picture, I'm just looking at Bhuloka, and therefore I'm not seeing Swargaloka. Okay, the picture is right in front of me. According to modern science, the light from Swargaloka, Marloka, Janaloka, Taploka, Bhuloka, everything is coming into my eyes, and yet I don't see Swargaloka. Okay, so if I was actually, my eyes were actually an instrument, right, a physical instrument, light will be coming from all the places, and therefore the instrument will see everything simultaneously, which is what physics actually is all about, right? If you have an object at one place in the universe, it is experiencing gravitational force from everything in the universe. Similarly, if one object is there, it is receiving light from everywhere in the universe. And therefore, this object should be seeing everything. But that is actually falsified by our sense perception. Okay, so I am looking at Bhuloka, therefore at that time I'm not seeing Swargaloka. Even though somehow or the other we would try to, or we will imagine the light is coming into my eyes from all the places, and yet we don't see. So all these things are, so by the movement of my consciousness, okay, even though light may be coming and in my senses, even though light may be coming into my mind, okay, that mind is also one material location in space, but consciousness is moving from one place to the other. You understand? Okay. So you can think of the mind or the senses. Light is coming into the senses or the mind, but consciousness is moving. It is not looking at Swargaloka, even though Swargaloka is being represented in my senses. It is looking at Bhuloka. Okay. So because of the movement of consciousness, I don't always see everything. So how does Arjuna go from one place to the other? It is again, the process is very, very similar to me looking at Bhuloka versus looking at Swargaloka. Okay, I can see this in a picture, I can move my eyes. That process of moving my eyes from Bhuloka to Swargaloka involves a movement of consciousness. Similarly, by a certain type of mantra, we can move the consciousness from one place to the other.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
and when
these mantras, right? Who are where do we can we learn, the normal human being can learn the mantras? Where are they available?
no, they are, yeah, Arjuna was given this mantra of how to move by a specific, I'm forgetting, I think in the book I have described, but I don't remember the name. So this mantra is given to very specific people, and even see, most of the times, if you, this is another deeper topic, if you study Mimamsa philosophy, okay, simply chanting is not enough. Okay, I can utter some sounds.
Yeah.
But just like if you, let's say, for example, you have a politician speaking,
Yeah.
okay, and he has been asked to read a speech. Sometimes people go and read a speech,
Yeah.
and people get bored. They're not convinced about what this person is saying.
Yeah.
That is one type of speech. That is just utterance.
Okay.
Versus there is a speech in which there is emotion, there is passion, okay, there is conviction. So when somebody listens to that type of speech, they immediately get convinced. Okay. So conviction in the speech is a deeper property of that sound, which is coming from the mind. Right? All speech is not equally convincing. Some speech is more convincing than the other. So if we simply give the mantra, okay, so what is this conviction? So when you are convinced about something, your mind is feeling that meaning. It is experiencing that meaning. It is going through that meaning process. Okay. And that is real mantra chanting. Versus I can just, utter some sound, and, that is not done. For example, there's a mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And I can say Om Namo. That is not convincing. Versus if I have devotion for Vasudeva, then when I say Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, this sound, which I am singing with devotion and conviction, will have a different effect on the listener.
Yes.
Than if I just say Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Exactly.
Okay. So mantra chanting is not simply uttering. The mind, this is again Mimamsa philosophy, it talks about what is actually mantra chanting. It says the mind has to be in the same emotional and conceptual state as the meaning of that sound. Okay. You can simplify this and say it is convincing sound or convincing speech versus utterance. Okay. So those mantras are not available to everybody, but even if they were there, chanting that with conviction is a different thing than just speaking.
So yeah, so talking about mantra, this Gayatri mantra, right? Om Bhu Bhuva Swaha. Do you think it's based on this Vedic cosmology?
Yes, it has a very strong bearing. See, Bhu Bhuvar Swarga. Yeah, I think, see, Kuvar is not shown probably in your picture. See, sun, if you study the deeper, the sun's light only goes into Bhuloka, Bhuvarloka, and Swargaloka.
Okay.
Sun's light does not go to Mahar, Jana, Tapa, and Satyaloka.
Okay.
Okay. Nor does the sunlight go to Atal, Vital, Sutal, Talatal, Mahatal, Rasatal, and Patal. The lower 7 planets and the top 4 planets, sun's light doesn't go there.
Why, like, and how do people live there? Like, do they need light? Do they need sunlight?
Yes, they need. Yes. So we will get very deviated from this topic, but there are alternate mechanisms of whenever we talk about loka, okay, loka is something that you can see, visible, you can say. If you study, there is an aloka varsha also. Okay, so this whole internal thing is called loka varsha, and there's outside that is aloka varsha. So there are places which are completely dark, you cannot see anything. So if you go there, you will not have any experience. Okay, but there are different agencies by which, you can say loka is created. So we will not go into all that depth because it will become very complicated about how, because then I have to discuss what is light. Okay, how light is produced, and it will be very complicated. So basically, the Gayatri mantra is about Bhu, Bhuvar, and Swarga. Sun's light shines only in this, and the implication is that whatever you are seeing, whatever you so-called quote-unquote universe we are seeing, okay, that is only within the Bhu, Bhuvar, Swarga. Okay, the Mahar, Jana, Tapa, and Satya, we are not seeing that. We will never see that from our earthly situation. Similarly, Talatal, Vital, Talatal, Sutal, Talatal, Satal, Mahatal, Patal, these 7 things also we don't see. We will not see. And similarly, even within this Bhu, Bhuvar, Swarga, we are not seeing most of the things.
Yes. So
we are not seeing most.
You said
Yes.
there is one Siddhanta which you can see and one Siddhanta which you cannot see. Yeah, can you tell that? Like,
yes. So see, seeing again, what we see and what we cannot see depends on our guna. Okay. So let me just say a little bit about why a flat, so-called flat earth seems a little round. Okay. Let us say we draw a disc on which disc of colors. Okay. Similarly, every location in that is a different kind of color. Okay. This is a very crude and simple example. And you are so there is red color, green color, blue color. So there are 3 divisions of these. Now you are sitting and in the yellow zone, and because of the guna, this thing, if you are in one mode, you will not perceive the other modes.
yeah.
Okay. So now think of why this roundness is created. As the Atma moves from one place to the other, let's say you have moved from yellow to blue. Okay. At that time, you will not see the other parts. So you can go round and round, and because in a physical plane, you are supposed to see all the 3 at the same time. But if you do not see the other ones, you will think it is a sphere.
Yeah.
Okay. So this sphere experience is created because this plane is not a physical plane. It is, you can say it's a guna plane. Okay. What it means is that if I am in Sattva Guna, then I will not see other things in Tamoguna. And this always happens in crude example. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Atmavan Mannate Jagat. If I am a cheater, I think everybody is a cheater.
Yeah, I know.
If I am innocent, I think everybody is innocent.
Yes.
So other person's innocent activity, okay, will appear to me as cheating because I am a cheater. Similarly, other person's if I am an honest person, other person cheating will. So what is happening is I am not able to see. Let's say if I am an honest person, other person is a cheater. A cheater will easily understand this person is cheating, but an honest person will not be able to see those things that tell the first person that he is cheating. It will not be visible to you. Okay. For example, let's say a cheater has a certain way of talking about things. Okay, he may use flattery, or other cheaters will easily notice that. The honest person will not notice that. So this Atmavan Manate Jagat, or it is because reality is constantly being filtered in our perception based on our guna. Okay. So if I am in Sattva Guna, I will not see in when a person is in Tamoguna, okay, we will not be able to understand why they are. And this is why what happens, people of different natures, they cannot coexist. Similarly, they cannot comprehend the other person. It is very difficult to, if a person is in Sattva-guna, it's very difficult for him to comprehend other people in Tamoguna and so on. So that is the basic principle. If we start discussing guna, it's a huge topic, right? What guna? So what happens actually is, if I am in the yellow zone, I will not see the green zone, red zone, blue zone, all these things. Okay. I will simply see. But if I move to the red zone, then I will not see the yellow zone, all the other zones. So this, based on my guna, the perception of other gunas, disappears and things like that. So this is why we get all these things. So how do you go from one place to the other? Just to wrap up this whole point, how does Arjuna go? Yes. There are mantras by which you can change your mental state, by you can change your guna. And once you change a guna, immediately this soul is transformed, or the body is transported to the other place. Yeah, go ahead.
So I have also heard that in Mount Kailasha there it is called Axis Mundi, and it is somewhere there where the Mount Meru passes, and if you go from there, and if you have a different guna and karma, you can travel other lokas. Am I correct?
Yes. Yeah. So this Mount Kailasha that we see on the earth, okay, there is another Mount Kailasha.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the Mount Kailasha that we are talking, you can think about it like this. Let's say you have a country like India. Okay. In India, in the Delhi city, there are embassies of all other countries.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Let's say there is an embassy of Pakistan. All right. There is an embassy of China. There is an embassy of US. There is an embassy of South Africa, France, and things like that. Okay. That embassy is called the property of that country. For example, if you have an embassy of the US in India, that embassy is called the property of that country. So if you enter that embassy, what will you say? I have entered United States territory. You understand? That thing is in India. But if you enter that place, it is called United States territory. Similarly, there is a place called Kailash here on this planet. If you enter that territory, you will say, I have entered I have entered Kailash. And it is not the same Kailash, and yet it is Kailash territory. Just like US Embassy in India is US territory. Okay. So there are a lot of deep principles about how this, because see, there is a country outside, US is outside, okay, and there's an embassy in India, which is also US.
Okay.
Okay. So there is a reflection which is outside, there is a reality which is outside, and there's a reflection, or you can say this reflection business is a extremely complicated topic, but you can use this embassy example to understand how it is both outside and inside.
Okay. So moving on to next topic, Brahma's life and cosmic clock. So like
Oh,
right, so this whole thing right now we are in Kal Yuga, right? And then it's like so basically this whole universe has a time and everything is going to destroy. And can you just little bit talk on this topic?
yeah. So this cosmic time, see, this time actually starts from atomic time.
Yeah.
Okay, we have to understand a little bit what is atomic time and what is what. So atomic time is essentially atomic time is again a consciousness concept.
Okay.
Okay, we have to understand what is an atom. Okay, then we will talk about what is atomic space, what is atomic time. What is an atom? Atom is the smallest thing I can perceive. It is a perception driven thing. Okay, now every species can, let's say, if the font size were to reduce, like if you have a paper or a document open and it has certain font size, we can go on reducing the font size. After some time we will not be able to read.
Exactly.
Okay, but if I was an ant, or if I was an ant, then I would be able to perceive, and I knew how to read, of course. Okay, so so if I become smaller and smaller and smaller, then I can, same thing becomes very big for me. So what is big and what is small, right? It is all subject to the smallest thing that I can perceive. Okay. So if I cannot, the smallest thing that I can perceive is my atom. Okay. And if somebody can perceive, but then there is a, there is a talk about, what is the, in this universe, there is a limit to the, species, to the smallest thing that any species can perceive. That is called atom. Okay. So there are two meanings of atomic. One is the smallest that I can perceive. Other is objectively the smallest that can be perceived in this universe. That is not a universal atom. Okay. In other universes, there are, in fact, as the universe gets bigger and bigger and bigger, okay, there are species who can perceive even finer and finer and finer. Okay. As we descend down the lower planetary systems, okay, like for example, if you go to a garden, okay, you can feel some perfume in let's say in the garden, some flower perfume, but it is not very vivid because our senses can faintly perceive some perfume. But imagine your senses, or if you're looking at light, okay, you're standing and seeing a flower and things like that. But if our senses become very sensitive, you can say, then they can perceive it, smell very, very deeply. If you eat food and you have, there are several flavors in that food, we might say, oh, it is bittersweet. But somebody who can actually distinguish between the minute flavor differences, that is the fine senses. So those fine senses perception is called atomic perception. It is again a very perception driven concept of atomism, not the, I smash something into pieces and that's not an atom. So accordingly, the smallest thing you can perceive. So from there, we start building, and you will see if you go back from atomic, time, we start building, and it goes into several stages, and then eventually come to day, night, month, year, and so on. So higher calculations of time are all based on, basic construct of year. When we talk about a year, we're talking about a solar year. A solar year is different from a lunar year. Then there is a yuga concept. Kali Yuga is for 432,000 years, as you can see that thing in that table. So 1, 2, 3, 4, that is the basic structure. Okay? Kali Yuga is 432,000. Double of that is Dwapar Yuga. Triple of that is Treta Yoga, and 4 times is that. So if you add 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, you get 10. So the Chatur Yogi is 10 times basically Kali Yuga. And this there are then you have 71 of these Chatur Yogis which make a Manavantar. Then you have 14 Manus which make what is called Kalpa. And so that Kalpa is 1000 Chatur Yogis, and that Kalpa is 1 day of Brahma. So if you try to sum up all these things, you will come to this enormous number that you see on the left side. Okay, it's approximately 311 trillion years.
So this universe, the whole universe will last for 3 trillion years, and then again it will be destroyed and new will be created. Is it like that?
Yeah, you can say destroyed, but actually what happens is destruction of the universe is just like you have thought in the mind.
Yeah.
Okay. When you stop thinking, the thought has disappeared, but the thought is in the mind.
Yeah.
Okay. So the destruction of the universe is simply called unmanifestation. The thought was hidden in the mind, and the thought manifested from the mind, then the thought went back into the mind, and the thought is still there. So the universe is actually never destroyed. Okay, this is the fundamental point. But from an experiential standpoint, you can say that if I'm not thinking, the thought is gone. So that is what we call pralaya and things like that. Yes, so you're right that the universe exists for a period of about 300 trillion years, and then it and this actually, okay, if you study deeper, this 300 trillion years is one breath of Lord Vishnu, Mahavishnu. Okay, so when he says he breathes in, everything goes in.
Yeah.
Universe goes in. When he breathes out, so his out breath is 311 trillion years. His in breath is 311 trillion years. And his out breath is 311 trillion years. So he is just breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out.
Yeah. So, and also like I want to ask, but if she observes the changes the rocket takes her through, and then she would be older relative to people on the earth. So looks like if you go from
What is this?
one,
Is it talking about twin paradox?
yeah. So like basically in a particular, there are potential other kinds of time that depend on conscious experience, and while these times may not be physically empirical, they can be empirical in other ways, such as the extent of a life. Say supposing if one person goes from one loka to another loka, or so the other loka, the time travels faster, so you age faster in other lokas than you age in the bhuloka. Is that something, can you talk about little time traveling faster than where we live?
Yeah. So see, this is a fundamental concept that most people are not understanding because they're thinking about always in terms of clock times.
Yeah.
But there is a difference between time and duration.
Okay.
Okay. And this simple difference comes because, let's say, if you say, yeah, I'm going through a bad time.
Yeah.
Okay. It feels very long to me. Right? If I am going through, one week of bad time, it feels like, oh, this week has been really long. Okay. So there is time, but there is that time is different from my experience, or you can say personal time and objective time, you can say like that. Okay. So similarly, there is this concept of lifetime. Okay. Fundamentally, what happens is everybody has received a fixed number of breaths. Even an ant has breath not breath in the sense we don't have an English word, we say prana. Okay? Everybody has a certain fixed amount of prana. But that prana can be consumed This is why I say, prana papheru ud gaye. That is basically everyone has received a certain amount of prana, and that prana gets spent faster or slower. Okay. Now, I'll give you a quick example of what yogis are doing. How do they elongate their life?
Exactly.
How they elongate their life is they hold this prana. Right? They hold this prana. Like if you have noticed, there have been several news articles in the last few years. They say young people are dying very early. And these young people, they say, oh, they have been they have been doing rigorous exercises and things like that. And, yet they are dying. The problem is science doesn't have a conception of what lifetime is. They think that if you exercise a lot, then you will live a lot. Whereas our conception is if you exercise a lot and you spend the prana faster, then you will die quickly. On the other hand, if you conserve the prana, like there have been some movie stars and things like that in India, they have been doing heavy weights and running and jogging, and they have been leading extremely, or you can say excessively active life. And they die very quickly because they spend the prana. Similarly,
this is like a revolutionary thought, because we think that, oh, we go to the gym and we hike and bike and we are healthy and we can increase our lifespan. That's what general population thinks.
Yes. So everyone has got a finite amount of prana. What yogis do is they hold the prana. Okay, so they slow down this prana. So this process of breathing in, breathing out, all these things, right? There is a very elaborate system of prana control. By this breath control, you control prana. Breath control is not same as prana control. They are two different things. But by breath control, you can attain prana control. They slow down this prana, and therefore their lifetime increases. What is lifetime? Life, according to the pranic definition. This is why if you go back to the time calculation, okay, if you go to that atomic table, you will see one of the measures of time is prana. Not this one. If you go to atomic time, not this one also. Anyway, you don't have the picture, but if you read that, there is in the atomic time, there is a thing called prana.
Yeah.
So there is a fixed amount of prana that everybody has received. But if you slow it down, it is like money. Right? If I spend my money slowly, then the money lasts long. If I spend it faster, then the money is finished quicker.
It's a revolutionary thought.
Yes. So basically what happens is certain people know, and then there are species who can also, so the demigods, okay, they're living in higher planetary systems, and they are living for 100 years.
Yeah.
Okay?
So their time is faster. That's why they're living for longer?
No, they are spending their prana slower. A yogi on this earth also can live for, as long as a demigod lives.
Okay.
Because life, or whatever we call life, is basically a certain amount of prana that you have been allocated. That prana is also controlled by karma and things like that. It's a very deep topic. But essentially, you can think of it as prana is currency. You spend your currency faster or spend your money faster, you will die faster. If you slow it down, then you live longer. So longer life is also 100 years. Brahma's life is also 100 years.
So, but can you tell me this? You still didn't answer that, like the time traveling faster and certain places.
Time traveling faster. It is not traveling faster. See, what you mean by time is something outside me is moving.
Yeah.
Clock, you can say.
Exactly.
Yeah. But clock may go 100 rounds and I may just hold one breath. I may just have, done one breath. So 100 clocks, you can say time is going fast, but I have slowed down my experience.
Okay.
Okay. So there is a difference between my lifetime and time. Time and lifetime are completely different things. Similarly, there is a difference between time and duration. Duration is how much I experience. Like I said, right? The happy times pass faster. So even though the same amount of time is passing, this happy and sad time is also dependent on how prana is flowing. Okay. So whenever you are sad or depressed and things like that, time seems to go very slowly and things like this. This is again become a very complicated topic. Okay, so basic concept is why there is longer life is basically prana is spent quicker or faster. That is how lifetime is determined. But Brahma is also living for 100 years. And ant is also living for 100 years.
So his 100 years is different, trillion years.
Yes.
And
Yes,
my
that
100
is
years
big.
is different.
Yes, that is because their prana is spent faster. My prana is spent little slower. Brahma's prana is spent extremely slower.
All right. Thank you, Ashish. I really enjoyed talking to you, and this I know this one session obviously is not enough. We will come back again and we'll dig deeper. We just scratched the surface in this session. We'll come back
Yeah,
again and dig deeper. So, do you have
Yeah.
anything to say to my viewers of the Atman Show?
Yeah, a couple of things. See, the Vedic system is it's an extremely scientific system. But the science of the Vedas is completely different from the science of whatever you call modern science today. Okay. They are two completely different, orthogonal, non-overlapping. And so this Vijnana, whatever we call, right, this whatever we call science, was prevalent, widely prevalent in India until a couple of thousand years ago. If you go to Mahabharata time, you can see how Arjuna is going from one planet to the other. Right? He doesn't need a spaceship. He has mantras to go to other places. Similarly, if you see in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that verse. Anyway, Krishna says the soul cannot be cut by weapons, dried by air, wetted by water, or burnt by fire. Okay, he talks about that to Arjuna, that this Atma cannot be, destroyed in these four ways. The reason is this: there are four kinds of weapons: ordinary swords and spears, and all these things. Okay, that is not cut by weapons. But there are three other kinds of weapons. They are the weapon of fire, water, and air. Okay, that Krishna says, Atma cannot be cut by, or burnt by fire, wetted by water, and dried by air, because there are three other kinds of weapons. So this military technology or this kind of technology requires a completely different form of science. Today, what we are talking about in terms of science is this. Even if you talk about atoms today, they will talk about cutting things into smaller pieces. Okay, that is not the only science we are talking about, right? For example, if I give you an apple and I say, what do you mean by atom? Generally, people say, let us cut the apple into 10 pieces, then 100 pieces, then million pieces, then billion pieces, and so on. That's the process of doing atom. But there is another way in which what is atom is taste, smell, sound, color, sight. I cannot separate the smell of the apple from the taste of the apple. Okay, this is one of the fundamental problems in modern science, that they have not been able to formulate any theory of smell and taste.
Not able to take other dimensions into consideration.
Yes, no, not dimensions. We're not talking. Dimension is a totally physical thing. There is no dimension here. Okay, taste is being experienced by my tongue. Smell is being gotten through my nose. I am experiencing the apple, but my senses are able to split the apple. The tongue will not get smell, right? The nose will not get taste. And yet, if you smell, sometimes your mouth will start watering. So this very complicated system of, so what we mean by these things is that you cannot separate lots of things the way science is, talking about. So this inseparable system of qualities, this inseparable system of atomism, these things are a completely different model of science and than whatever we call. So my message to people is study. There are books. I have a lot of books on my website. There are a lot of free articles. There is more than 250 articles, various types of topics. Because see, knowledge is actually has no limit; it's infinite, right? So go and pursue, and there is a forum if you want to discuss something after reading or studying, or questions. You can ask questions. There a lot of people come and ask questions. So that's the thing. Don't be bewildered or swayed by this common propaganda nowadays that goes around. This is myth and mythology. Okay? This myth and mythology is also there. Okay? There are certain people and certain religions who have created a lot of myths and mythologies, and they want to impute that same thing on the other people. But this is not myth and mythology.
This is
So
Vedic
it's a
science.
scientific
This is
thing.
Vedic science.
Yes, it's a very scientific thing, and yet it is not modern science. Okay, so don't say that, oh, I want to understand this science in terms of that science. That won't happen. That will never happen. You have to understand the limitations of the current science, and then you have to move to the alternate way of thinking. Right? This is what we call generally paradigm shifts, and you can't fathom the alternative paradigm in terms of previous paradigm. You have to change your thinking. If you don't change your thinking, you will never understand the new paradigm. But you understand the limitations of the previous paradigm, then discard it. Then go to the new paradigm. And then in that paradigm, you will understand.
All right. Thank you so much. And obviously, we'll come back again in another session and we'll pick topics, specific topics, and we'll discuss on that. For now,
Yeah.
bye and good luck. Bye.